The guy that we need. He's a team player. He works on behalf of Arizona. He works on behalf of you. So I'd like to introduce to you the next Congressman from CD1, Jonathan Paton.
Well, if you haven't met me, my name is Jonathan Paton, and I'm the guy who's going to beat Ann Kirkpatrick at first team. I had the interesting experience of finally debating her. She doesn't like to debate. She doesn't like town halls either, from what I understand. And I want to read the result of this exchange that I had with her. It was in front of the Arizona Republic, which is not exactly like meeting with the editorial board of National Review, let me tell you. And this is what they said. We endorsed Ann Kirkpatrick for Congress in 2008 and 2010, so it goes without saying we were favorably inclined her way when she showed up for our interview with Congressional District 1 candidates. However, candidate interviews can sometimes throw curveballs, and this one left us bewildered. For an hour, Kirkpatrick ridiculed, belittled, cut off, and scolded her opponent in a manner that exceeded rudeness. We have seen more complete meltdowns in our board meetings, but never one so unexpected. She talks a little bit about what we did and we discussed. And there was something that was interesting that happened when we had our debate. They asked me, they said, you're not from northern Arizona, you're from southern Arizona. And you, Ann Kirkpatrick, you lost your last race. So Ann, we want to know, what would you do if someone was out there and they were going to be from northern Arizona and they voted you out last time? Can you explain what you've done differently, why they should hire you back? Why did they make a mistake? She couldn't answer that question. And they said, Mr. Paton, you're not from northern Arizona, you're from southern Arizona. If I'm a voter from northern Arizona, why should I vote for you? She knows this district. And I said, absolutely, she knows this district. She was born in this district. And you know what? She knew the whole district and what the district stood for, and she still voted for Obamacare, she still voted for the stimulus, and she still voted for Nancy Pelosi. That's why she lost in 2010, and that's why she's going to lose in 2012. That's why I didn't want to compete. Because I may not be from northern Arizona, but I can tell you this, I know those aren't northern Arizona values. Those aren't the values of the people of rural Arizona. Now, people ask me all the time, they say, where does your political philosophy come from? Why do you believe what you believe? Well, a long time ago, I was 18 years old, and I was an exchange student in Germany. That was 1989, 1990. And that was a time period and one of the most important moments in world history because that was when the Berlin Wall fell. The Berlin Wall fell, and our little village that we lived in was about 1,500 people. And we had about 50,000 visitors from East Germany came into our little village. And it was interesting because the West German government gave all of them 100 Deutschmarks as they came through as sort of a welcoming gift. And they bought everything in sight. Everything they couldn't get in East Germany. They had meat, they had pineapples, they had chocolate, they had all these different things that were hard to come by in their country. And there in the square there was a young man, he was also 18 years old. He was a Russian soldier. And in my high school we had learned Russian. And so I decided I would talk to him. And we had a conversation, and we talked about what had happened, and he said that it was an amazing experience. As people started going west, he followed them. And I said, you're going to have an incredible story when you go home back to Mother Russia. And he said, I'm not going home. He said, I'm going to keep going west until I get to the Pacific Ocean, and then I know I'll be free. Of course, then he would be in California, so that might be a little bit of a problem. But the point is that he believed that this nation was a beacon for the world for freedom. He believed in that beacon. And this president, aided and abetted by people like Richard Carmona and Ann Kirkpatrick, they don't see it the same way. They believe that the United States is no different than any other countries. How many veterans do we have here tonight? Raise your hand. I'm a United States Army soldier, and I can tell you that it is a wonderful sight to go to these events and see you here getting involved in the political process. And the reason why you're doing it is the same reason that you got into the military in the first place, the same thing that you did the day you joined. You raised your right arm and you swore an oath. And that oath wasn't to a president, it wasn't to a king, it was to the Constitution of the United States. And that's why we're here today. But when you look at the 2 years that Ann Kirkpatrick was in office, you look at those 2 years, I can tell you, it is a litany of bad things happening to our country. It is stealing away our liberties one at a time, one bill at a time. You've got February 2009, you have the stimulus bill. March 2009, you have card check. March 2009, you have cap and trade. June 2009, you have cash for clunkers. March 2010, you've got Obamacare, the biggest abomination we've had in the last 30 years. March 2010, you got Rob Prince is killed on our southern border. June 2010, you have Dodd-Frank, and September of 2010, you have the extension of the bailouts, and just as she's leaving office, just as Congressman Gosar is taking over from her, she gives over $100,000 to people that were on her campaign with your taxpayer dollars to hire them on to the taxpayer dole. Ladies and gentlemen, that is not a simple listing of bills. That's not even a record. That is a sustained assault on the Constitution of the United States by Ann Kirkpatrick, by Harry Reid, by Nancy Pelosi, and by this person in the White House they call Barack Obama. That's exactly what that is. My question to you is, what are we going to do? We're going to make the change. Now, in their last campaign, they made some promises. They promised that they were going to give us health care reform. Instead, they gave us health care rationing. They promised that they were going to give us, or they were going to secure our border. Instead, they sued our state. They promised that if this president were elected, that he was going to make sure that our image in the Middle East is going to be improved. Tell that to the people who lost their lives in our embassy in Benghazi. That's exactly what's happening. But the biggest thing, the three issues that I think concern most of us is the health care bill, the stimulus bill, and Fast and Furious. These three issues, more than anything else, I call them the trinity of doom, I guess. These three things, more than anything else, they have become a scandal in this country. A scandal that has become a cause that has become a movement, and a movement, you mark my words, on the first Tuesday in November will shake the very foundation in Washington, D.C. like we have not seen in a generation. And my grandfather, he grew up on a farm outside of Hickory Flat, Mississippi. He was a sharecropper. And I look around at what's happened in our country, I don't think 5 years ago I wouldn't have believed that the government would control General Motors. I never would have believed the fact that the government would control the entire healthcare system. I wouldn't have believed that this president, the president of the free world, would bow before the king of Saudi Arabia. And my grandfather used to say he was dirt poor. He used to tell my mom that we may be poor, but in this country you never have to bow before a president, you never have to bow before a king. We're not going to bow to your health care bill, Barack Obama. We're not going to bow to the stimulus bill, and we're not going to bow to the bill of goods that's being sold by Ann Kirkpatrick, Richard Carmona, or Barack Obama. I can tell you that right now. And you know what happened in Holbrook. In Holbrook, she made the decision that she was going to have a town hall. She was going to listen to her constituents and find out what they thought about the health care bill. But we know what happened. People started asking tough questions. And what did she do? She turned around, she got out of there, she got into a car with California plates, and she hightailed it out of Holbrook, and she hasn't come back hardly since. For a simple reason that she doesn't want to answer those questions. Well, as a soldier, I've never walked away from a fight. And I can tell you this, I learned the hard way. You need to stand up and deliver. You need to answer people's questions. I will never walk out on a town hall. I'll never walk out on Arizona, and I'll never walk out on you. This is one of the most important elections in our lifetime. We say that all the time, but I'll tell you this. It's true this time around. You know it. I know it. We all know it. We've got two paths we can go by. On the one path, we've got prosperity. That's the path that Mitt Romney is trying to take us. That's the path that Jeff Flake is trying to take us. The path to prosperity, the path of limited government. On the other path is the path we've been on for the last 3 years. It's a path that leads us down the road to less jobs, more government, and more broken dreams in Arizona and across the country. I need your help. Right now, we are in a tough fight, but I can tell you this. The poll just came out on Monday, and we are 5 points ahead. We're going to win this race. We're going to win it because we believe in what the people of this district believe in, and that is limited government, that is liberty, that is all the things that we have grown up believing. But we can't do it on our own. We need your help. We know that there's divisions in our party. We've seen it in the primary. But now's the time to come together as a party. Now's the time to come together as a conservative movement. Because we have the opportunity not only of keeping the House, we have the opportunity to take back the Senate, and we have the opportunity to take back the White House. We will win in November with your help and with this state behind us. We will win it. Now, people ask me, how are we going to reach out to the other side? What are you going to talk about? I'm going to close with this. In our Constitution, it is very clear. It says that throughout the Constitution, there is a theme. That theme is checks and balances. You can either have a rubber stamp, or you can have a check and a balance. Now, I remember there is I went to the Civil War Museum in Raleigh, North Carolina. And there is it's a letter. And that letter seems to be written in red ink, but it's not. It was written by a cavalryman who was killed at a battle, and he used a sword to write one letter to his father as he lay dying. And it said, "Tell my father I died facing the enemy." Now, who is the enemy? It says in our scriptures, it says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against dark leaders of this world." Our enemy is not the Democratic Party. Our enemy is not even our opponents in these elections. Our enemy is an idea. It's an idea that we fought under fascism. It's an idea that we fought under communism. It is the idea that our rights come not from God, but from government. That's what we've been fighting against all this time. You have the opportunity in November to make a difference, to believe in the Constitution, believe in your faith, and believe in this country again. I need your help. Jeff needs your help. Mitt Romney needs your help. And with your help, we will win in November. I'm Jonathan Paton. I'm running for Congress, and I'm asking for your vote. Thank you very much.